How's it going, everybody? This video is probably one that some of you have been waiting for, and this is likely partially my fault because of some of the videos I have shown in the past using Maestro with these 4 LED bars. A lot of you have asked me many questions about these bars, where did I get them, how I have them configured, so I figure I would do a quick video just going into more detail about these bars, where to get them, how to configure them, how to get them looking awesome with MaestroDMX. So as you see here on my video, I have those 4 bars going in MaestroDMX. These are those Lalus Nats 12 LED 3-in-1 wall washer lights. You can find these on Amazon. Currently, these are on sale during Black Friday. It is Black Friday today, so we do see these on sale for $103.99. Commonly, you see these for $129 retail. Great price for a great bar with a lot of awesome features. Now, a few gotchas with these bars. In order to get them looking as cool as I have mine in Maestro, you are going to need to customize your fixture profile a little bit. And I'll go into detail as to why. And each of these bars will eat up 75 DMX channels per bar. So if you want to have each one its own separate light, separately controlled by Maestro, you are going to eat up 75 DMX channels per light with these fixtures. So be aware, if you have a lot of fixtures in your setup, you may run out of DMX channels pretty quickly. That to say, I have 4 bars running in Maestro. This eats up 300 of the 512 available DMX channels. So be aware, if you buy 4 of these, very similar to my setup, you want to make sure you have enough free DMX space for the rest of your fixtures. But once again, you can find these on Amazon. Right now they're on sale, $103.99. Retail generally is $129.99. I've had these for a few years now. They've worked great. I haven't had any major issues with these lights. And they look even more awesome now that I have them hooked up in Maestro. So how do you get these lights looking this cool in Maestro itself? So with this being a 75 channel fixture, and I will pull up the manual here for that. The manual is kind of a little hard to read, but I'll walk you through it. So in 75 channel mode, you get the following features with this fixture. Channel 1 is your master dimmer channel. Because this is an RGB W with cool white and warm white, that master dimmer is going to handle all of those pixels on this fixture. Your second channel is a strobe channel. And I'll show you in my profile, generally I just set that to static 0. I don't care about strobe. Maestro can handle the strobe internally. And then starting from channel 3, you have your yellow pixels. And those are those circular warm white pixels in the center of the fixture. There are 12 of them, and you can individually address all 12 of them. So you get these cool kind of chase patterns, these cool sweeping patterns. You can get individual pixels blinking away, things like that. And that starts from channel 3 all the way up to channel 14. So from 3 to 14, you are handling all of your yellow pixels. And then we move on to the white pixels, and these are those cool whites. They also are up the center of the fixture. They're tiny little white LEDs that are in rows going up the center. And there are 13 individual roles that you can address in this fixture. And that does start from channel 15, going all the way up to channel 27. So 15 to 27 are each of your 13 rows of those cool white LEDs. And then moving right along, starting from channel 28 all the way up to channel 75 is going to be your RGB pixels. Now each channel is going to be a specific color. So 28 being your red channel, 29 being your green channel, 30 being your blue channel, and then it repeats from there. So 31 would be red again, 32 would be green, 33 would be blue. Now again, this manual doesn't do a very good job of explaining that this is red, this is green, this is blue. So just take that to note that it is going to be red, green, blue repeating, and there are 16 individual segments of RGB pixels that you can address. And that is 48 channels in total. So you would have 16 red, 16 green, and 16 blue. And as you can see in the video, you can see, if you watch along, you can see those 16 segments being lit up and being kind of adjusted. You can see them in little blocks, but there are 16 blocks going up this fixture that you can address with RGB values. So that's the 75 channel mode. Now, how do you get this set up in Maestro? So generally, if you add this fixture as a single 75 channel fixture, you're not going to get the looks that you see that I have. So I will pull up the fixture profile that I have, and if you look at just 75 channel mode, just creating a generic 75 channel fixture, you're going to have your master dimmer, you're going to have your strobe, and like I said, you're going to have those 12 warm whites, those 13 cool whites, and then starting from channel 28, you're going to go red, green, blue, repeating all the way down to channel 75. Now, if you start this fixture, you will get the RGB, the pixels along the edge, looking pretty cool. But those warm whites and those cool whites are going to also be added as additional pixels to Maestro, which will throw off any of those 2D grid kind of effects, where I'll show you the 2D grid that I have set up, show you how I have it configured in this video, so you know, continue to watch along. But 75 channel mode, generally I don't recommend adding one big 75 channel fixture. So how do I do it? So what I have done specifically is I have segmented each of the features of this fixture into a separate fixture profile. And this is starting from the top here. We have a 2-channel fixture, and all this is doing is it's overriding that master dimmer, just always setting it to max. We don't really care about that master dimmer with regards to this fixture. We just want it a full 255 at all times, and that basically says everything is at 100%. But don't panic, that doesn't mean your fixture is going to be fully lit with all LEDs going. That just means that the range of adjustment for each of those pixels is 0 to 100% if you set it to 100%. So I recommend creating a 2-channel fixture to start. Channel 1 being your dimmer, maxed out at 255, basically always on. And then that strobe channel, just set it to a static value of 0. Again, Maestro can handle the strobing internally just fine. You don't need to set that strobe channel on this fixture specifically. The next channel, the next fixture profile that I created was for those warm whites. And this is that 12-channel section of the manual. So again, looking at that manual, we have 12 addressable warm whites, starting from channel 3 all the way up to channel 14. So if I look back at Maestro, I've created a 12-channel fixture with 12 warm white settings on those channels. So we got 12 here. They're all set to warm white. That's how I created the warm white side of it, and I'll explain to you later why I did this. And then I also created a 13-channel fixture, and this handles the cool white portion of that fixture. And there are 13 cool white channels, so I set up a 13-channel fixture with all 13 set to cool white. And then finally, I added a 48-channel fixture, and this is for those RGB pixels specifically. And like I said, there are 48 channels available to address, 16 red, 16 green, and 16 blue. And they are repeating. So starting from 1, we go red, 2, we go green, 3, we go blue, and then we just repeat that pattern. Red, green, blue, red, green, blue, red, green, blue, all the way down to the 48th channel. So again, why did I do it this way? And this is kind of where Maestro shines. With these fixtures, having them separated out, you can assign specific functions of your fixtures to specific fixture groups. So looking at my Maestro, and first I'll go over the patcher side of it. So how do you add these individual profiles into Maestro so that it will address your fixture properly? And this is where it gets a little advanced. You got to be aware of what you're doing, so be aware of how you're adding these. So the way that I have added these specifically, and it's going to look a little different here because the way that I did it was a 1-channel fixture. I have since fixed that to a 2-channel fixture. But we're just going to assume, looking at this video, that that first fixture is that 2-channel fixture. So in my patcher, I have my fixtures addressed to the following DMX values. My first fixture is set to a DMX address of 1. My second fixture is set to a DMX address of 76. My third fixture is set to a DMX address of 151. And my fourth fixture is set to a DMX address of 226. So keep that in mind when you set these fixtures. Set each one to a different start address. You know, you're going to use 75 DMX addresses for the first one. So the second one will start at 76. Add 75 to that. Then you got the 126. Add 75 to that. Or I'm sorry, add 75 to the first one, then you got 151. Add 75 to that, and then you got 226. So that's where you're going to set your fixtures specifically. And this may vary based on your setup. Your fixtures may not start from DMX1. It makes it a little easier to start them low numbers so you can add them rapidly to Maestro, but your setup may vary. So what I ended up doing is starting from DMX address 1, I added that 2-channel address, which handles the dimmer and the strobe. And again, those are just set to static values, so I'm not even letting Maestro handle those. And then right after that, I added the 12-channel fixture profile. And again, looking at the manual, those first 2 channels are just the dimmer and strobe. And then we add a 12-channel fixture, which addresses those yellow pixels, those warm whites. And then looking back at Maestro, after adding that 12-channel, I then add the 13-channel fixture. And this one is going to be those cool whites. So again, starting from DMX address 15, and if you go back and look at the manual here, there's 15, and that starts the whites. And there are 13 of those, so we go from 15 all the way up to 27. That covers our whites via the 13 channel, and you see our 15 to 27 again. So you're kind of seeing how this is playing out, because to Maestro, it doesn't matter that all your DMX values are in one fixture profile, because Maestro is just sending out DMX data. So you can build a profile that just says all my fixtures is one profile, add all the data to that one profile, and it's still going to work. But the reason why you want to segment those is so you can split them into separate fixture groups, and I'll show you kind of what that does here. So again, going back to our fixture, now we're adding that 48 channel one at the end, and that covers our RGB address space for that fixture. And again, that starts at 28 and goes up to 75. And looking at the manual again, we see here 28 is our start, 75 is our end. So as you see here, I add those in order, 2, 12, 13, and 48. And then we repeat it again because, like I said, my second fixture is set to a DMX start address of 76. So we go 2, 12, 13, 48 from there. My third fixture starts out at 151. So we go 2, 12, 13, 48. And then my fourth fixture starts out at 226. And again, we go 2, 12, 13, 48. So now that we've added all of those custom profiles into Maestro, Maestro is now addressing those 4 fixtures. Now by default, when you add those, they're all going to be added to primary. And I'm going to go through and I will set each of these back to primary so you can kind of get a feel for what it looks like when you have them all on primary to start. So we'll go primary, 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 primary. So now everything is on primary regarding those Lalo Snats fixtures. So now that we have them addressed, we're going to go to our layout page and we're going to look at kind of our arrangement of those fixtures. So I have my fixtures arranged to where my first panel is going to start on set channel 76. Now, how do you figure out how to arrange your fixtures? So say I say we just reorganize this the way that we had it just from a start. And here, I will make this a little bit easier. We're gonna create a new stage here. I'm gonna remove all of my fixtures from this stage so you can see from a blank slate how we add these fixtures and how I address them to make them look as cool as they do with Maestro. So let's start with a blank slate here. We're going to load this stage, so now none of our fixtures are set up. And I'm going to add them, like I said before, following that order. So we're going to start with that 2-channel fixture, starting with start address 1. We're going to add another fixture, and that's going to be that 12-channel. So again, we're starting with those warm whites, and if you're adding these from 1, Maestro is automatically going to set the right start address. So if this is easier for you, maybe reset your fixtures, start them from 1, and add these 4 bars that way. But we're going to add that 12-channel mode. There we go. Now we're going to go back and we're going to add that 13-channel mode. And that's going to address it properly already from the start address of 15, following our manual. And then we are going to add that 48-channel mode. And there's 48, and it's going to start from the proper start address of 28. So we have that first fixture addressed, and as you see here, my fixture is now lining up in Maestro. And hey, look, that fixture is the one on the far right side in the video. And I'll show you how to do your layouts here in a moment. But we have this one set up. So now we're going to go back, and we're going to do the same thing for the other 3. And yes, this is a little tedious, but this does pay off in the end. So definitely, if you're looking for that same look like I have, you're going to want to do it this way. And like I said, it is a little tedious, but once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. So let me go through and add these other 3 fixtures. So there's our second one. As you see now, this fixture is on the far left of the video. But that one has been added successfully. Let's add the third one. Starting again with that 2-channel fixture. Then adding that 12-channel fixture. Then adding that 13-channel fixture. And then finally adding that 48-channel fixture. Now as you see, that third one has lit up, and that one is the one kind of on the middle right side of the video. And we'll add that 4th fixture in. Again, starting with 2. Then we'll add the 12. Then we'll add the 13. And then finally we'll add the 48. So now we have successfully added all 4 fixtures into our layout, into our patcher for Maestro. Now we want to lay these out in the proper order. Now right now I have a 1D layout set up, and I'm going to show you what the 2D layout gets you once you get these fixtures patched in properly. So right now everything is in our primary fixture group. Now we want to segment out the features of these fixtures into separate groups. So we're going to leave our master dimmer, so our 2-channel fixture, along with our 48-channel fixture. We're going to leave both of those in primary. So our RGB features are a primary fixture group. But we're going to move the warm white fixture and the cool white fixture into secondary and tertiary fixture groups. So you do that by going to the patcher page. And then fixture group, you just change that 12-channel to secondary and that 13-channel to tertiary. And we're going to do that on every single fixture. So 12-channel secondary, 13-channel tertiary, 12-channel secondary, 13-channel tertiary, 12-channel secondary, 13-channel tertiary. Now we have those fixtures segmented out into primary, secondary, and tertiary fixture groups. Now we still need to fix our order of our fixtures. Because as we saw previously, those fixtures did not go into the same order that we had them. I don't have them laid out from left to right, channel 1, channel 76, channel 151, so on. I have these kind of moved around. So what we're going to do is we're going to fix the order of these fixtures. Now if you set up your fixtures in the proper fashion, you won't have to do this order thing. But if your fixtures are not placed in consecutive order, going from left to right, you're going to want to fix your order of your fixtures. Now how do we do that? There is one easy feature to do this, and that is using the built-in mapping test for Maestro. So if we switch over to the show page and we turn on mapping test, what's going to happen is we're going to see this kind of feature move across all of our bars. Now this will show you where to start, where to move your fixtures. So as we see, that one on the far right is going first, and then we see the one on the far left, and then we see the one on the middle right, and then the middle left. So we're going to fix the order of these, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to our stage, go to the layout page, and then we're just going to drag these around based on where they should be. So we know right now that one on the far right is at the end of our list. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this far right one all the way to the bottom. We're going to drag the 2 channel as well as the 48 channel all the way to the bottom. So now that far right one should be going last, and it is. So now we're going to fix it for the proper order. So our far left one is already in the right spot because that one's going first. And now instead of the middle left going second, it's going third. So we're going to move the second and third fixtures around. So I'm going to grab this one that starts at 226, which is my second, and move that one up. And I'm also going to grab the second part of that, which is 253, and move that one up. And now as we see, our mapping is correct. It starts from the left and goes right down the line. So now we have our fixtures mapped properly for the primary fixture group. Now how do we do this for secondary and tertiary? Well, it's going to be a bit harder to do a mapping test with the warm white and the cool white LEDs, but we can still use that original order that we had on the primary to reorder this secondary. So we again remember that first fixture should be at the bottom, so we're going to drag that one to the bottom. And then we remember that fixture 2 and 3 need to be swapped, so we're going to grab 3 and move that into the place of 2. And now our warm LEDs are in the proper order. As we can see, those effects are centered properly. So we see it scrolling across that and then scrolling across the outer edge. So we now have our proper order for secondary. And we can repeat the same thing for tertiary. Again, that first fixture goes to the bottom because it is on the far right side. And then we're going to move 3 up to place of 2. And now we have our cool whites also in the proper order. So we have those fixtures added. We have them ordered properly. But now we want to get those cool effects, those cool 2D mappable effects to work across these fixtures. So right now in primary, when you first open Maestro, you may not see these mapping options. You got to click this little arrow icon at the bottom here to expand those out, and then you will see the mapping options available to you. Like I said, by default, there is a 1D linear. If you set up your fixtures in the same orientation that I have mine, you may want to switch these to a 2D grid. You'll get way cooler effects out of a 2-dimensional grid versus a single 1-dimensional like bar going across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the mapping over to 2D grid. And as you see here now my mapping test has changed. I now have a blue bar that's scrolling across my fixtures along with red bars that are moving up and down. Now we know specifically, and even looking at the Maestro window here, these fixtures have 16 pixels per fixture. So in total, we have 64 pixels. So what we're going to do is we're going to change a couple of values for this mapping. The first value we're going to change is this style. These fixtures are not set up in a zigzag style. They are set up in a wrap style. So we're going to switch that over to wrap. What that's going to do is it's going to change how those bars wrap across. But we also need to adjust the length. And this is the length of the columns. So we know these fixtures have 16 pixels. So what do you guess? Our length is going to be 16. So when we set these to 16, now we see our mapping test has changed. The blue bar is now scrolling across our fixtures like we would like. And the red bar is scrolling from bottom to top. So that is proper mapping for the primary. And this is, again, if you have 4 fixtures and you have them laid out in this orientation, even with 2, you can still do 16. With 1, you're not going to get much of an effect. I recommend at least 2 fixtures. 4 is kind of that sweet spot. Getting 4 of these, you get some pretty cool effects going across them. But now that we've set up our 2D grid properly for these, we see that blue bar is scrolling across the fixtures, and the red bar is scrolling from bottom to top. Now, what do you do for the white LEDs? So specifically, let's look at secondary. Again, on the secondary page, we see each fixture has 12 pixels. So what do you guess? We're going to switch back to 2D grid again on these. And this time, we're going to, again, set these to a wrap because they are wrapping. They are not zigzagging. So I have them all in the same orientation. So if you look at the back of the fixtures, they're all oriented the same way. And we're just wrapping from top to bottom. So what do you think that length's going to be for the whites? Well, we have 12 pixels per fixture, so that length is going to be 12 for those white pixels. And now, as you see, I've adjusted that length. Now we're seeing an effect kind of pulsing across those fixtures, going to the center. And that's what we're looking for. And then on to the cool white pixels. We'll switch over to those. And again, we see here that Maestro identifies 13 pixels in each of these fixtures. So we're going to change that pixel mapping again over to 2D grid. We're going to fix that to be wrapping because, again, those fixtures are all oriented in the same direction. And then we're going to set our length to 13. And that's going to adjust those cool whites as well. Now you may notice the cool whites currently are not lighting up on these fixtures. I believe that is because Maestro does not yet have cool white colors in place. So for now, you're going to see those warm whites lighting up. Those cools will start working later on once the cool white has been added to those color palettes. But now, we do got to talk about color palettes. So specifically with these fixtures, now that you have them split into separate fixture groups, now you can address different color palettes for each group. So we go over to the show page here. And as we see, our primary, we have it currently set to that mapping test. I'm going to switch this over to a standard dance pattern. And we're going to switch our palette over to, we'll leave it as this all high saturation. That looks cool. And as we see, now we're getting that pixel mapping effect with the center of the mapped effect being the center of those 4 fixtures. And we're seeing it kind of scroll across those fixtures. Pretty cool looking effect. Looks even better once you get the music going. But now we're going to look at our secondary and our tertiary groups. So in order to get those warm white LEDs to work, you need to set a color palette that has white in it. Generally speaking, I like to pick the sparkle group because that has RGBW. We're not going to actually use the red, green, blue stuff with those pixels. It's just going to use the white. So you would set that sparkle group for your color palette. And the nice thing is you can also change the pattern. Say you want the white lights to move at a more slower pattern, you can set these to something like chill or ambient, and those lights will move at a different rate in comparison to the RGB pixels that are on primary. But for now, we're going to leave these as that dance pattern. We like them that way. And then tertiary, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to set a pattern group. This one I've set to ambient, and like I said, right now those cool whites are not going to do anything until they add that cool white channel in there. But for now, we'll just leave this as an ambient pattern. And again, make sure you set a color group that has the white pixels addressed in it. Otherwise, those pixels will not work. So if you set it to something standard, like red, green, blue, you're not going to see those white pixels light up. So make sure you choose a color group that has white in it. And right now that sparkle group is the best one to choose from. Now we can also adjust a few values for these specific patterns. And I like to adjust these as well to change kind of how the rate of the effects move across those fixtures. So by default, we have our Maestro dance pattern. We have our all high saturation palettes. Brightness is 100%. We're going to leave that like it is. Intensity 71. We're going to leave that as well. Background is 50 to where it's not going to go fully dark, but it will move between light and dark. You're going to have, if you drag the background all the way up to 100, your fixtures aren't going to fade to dark. If you drag it all the way to 0, they're going to fade fully dark a lot more often. And then motion is specific to moving heads, so we're not going to adjust that one. But if you have movers, you do want to play with that motion setting. For secondary, we are going to adjust our intensity. So by default, the secondary intensity is a little bit lower. I believe that's at 50% for the intensity. We're going to drag that up just a little bit, give it a little more intensity. This may also be the default of 60. If it is, I would leave it there. Give it a little more intensity, but not the same amount of intensity as you get for the primary group. And then tertiary, that intensity is way down there at 50. You might want to leave it there, or you may want to drag it down further, down to 30% or less. But play around with those settings. You'll get different effects moving across those fixtures with those changes. So that is kind of a long, I said this was brief, but it's been 30 minutes. But that's kind of overviewing how I have these fixtures set up in Maestro. A few gotchas that may catch you in this setup. If you have other fixtures that you want to add, be aware that running a 2D grid, it's going to do a two-dimensional grid based on this total number of pixels that you have. Maestro is doing math internally that's saying the length is 16, so it's going to internally assume there are 4 rows here. Or 4 columns, 4 columns going across. So be aware if you add more fixtures to primary, it's going to throw off this count, this 2D grid. So what I suggest is if you want to add additional fixtures, maybe add those to a secondary fixture group, and then you can turn off the 2D grid and set it back to 1D linear. Then you won't have as many issues with those effects. You'll still get cool effects going across those warm LEDs. You just won't get the two-dimensional effects across the warm LEDs if you switch them to one-dimensional. But again, that's one gotcha you'll probably be aware of. If you add additional fixtures and they have pixels, that will throw off those grid pixel counts. If those fixtures are washes, or if they have RGB pixels in like a moving head. Maestro did mention that the movers may not throw off that count. Now, obviously, this may not be correct, but be aware that if you are adding fixtures with additional pixels, you should probably address them in a different fixture group so they don't interfere with your two-dimensional layout that you have set up in your primary fixture group on these bars. And as you see here, I will switch over to my other stage just to kind of show you. This is my primary stage. This has all my lights set up in it. We'll turn on those spotlights. We will turn on those slim pars, those 4 slim pars that we have. We'll turn on those LED spotlights. And we'll turn on those moving washes. So as you see here, this is my layout, how I have it. And we'll go to that primary group again and I'll show you that layout. So this one has the 16 pixels in primary. And we are going to move, these ones back to where they were. So secondary, tertiary, secondary, tertiary. Oh, I did that wrong. Primary. This is secondary. This is tertiary. So again, those 12 and 13s. Secondary and tertiary. One more bar to go. Secondary, tertiary. And as you see everything else, my moving heads are in secondary. those intimidator spots. And you'll also see that my moving washes are secondary, and those other LED spots are secondary. So looking at my layout again, we'll go back there. Now we see we have 64 pixels, 4 times 16. We have our 2D grid with a 16 pixel length. That's how we're getting those cool kind of pixel mapped effects across those 4 fixtures. Going over to secondary, we have a 1D grid, so that's impacting those warm LEDs in the center, those warm whites, as well as we also have those moving heads in that same fixture group. As we see, we still get a pretty cool effect scrolling across those. The effect isn't as centered as it could be because we have those moving heads. Now you can fix that by reordering your fixtures as well. So we'll take those moving heads and we'll put them in the order that we expect them to be. So we have our LED spot, our intimidator, and our moving wash at the beginning. And then we'll put our moving wash here. We will put our intimidator here and our LED spot there. And I'm going to reorder these to where they're in the proper order. So we have LED spot, intimidator, moving wash, intimidator, LED spot, moving wash. And we're going to solve these just to make sure they're in the right order. So that one is on the far left. That's also on the left. That one's incorrect, so we're going to fix that. We're going to move this one down and move this one up. And we'll solo that one, and yep, that's the left side. And you can't solo these lolly snats, and that's because we have that master channel there. You're not going to see those fixtures do anything with a solo mode, so you can't really solo these. But we're going to look at these other ones. So there's the right side, right side, right side. And now we're in the right order in that secondary arrangement. So now if we give a minute here to light up those sparkle effects, we should see those sparkle effects be more of a centered effect this time, where it's going to move from those 2 center bars out to those outer bars, out across those LED fixtures. We'll see if we can actually get a secondary effect to trigger here. Look at our secondary, and as you see here, that's got a 60% intensity. We'll see if we can get that to fire, and maybe we'll just play a little song here. There's those warm whites going. As we see, those are more centered now. We got that cool effect scrolling across them. So we are getting what we would like out of those lights and those effects that we're looking for. And those effects are now more centered, as you see there. So again, this was kind of a long-winded introduction to those LED lights. Like I said, these lights are going to be more configured for those advanced users. So if you want to get into pixel mapped effects, you want to get some of those cool scrolling effects, definitely buy yourself some of those Lalo Snats bars. Again, you can find them on Amazon. Search Wash Light Bar Lalo Snats 40. You'll find this fixture. It is on sale right now for Black Friday, but retail for this is still just $129. So definitely a nice fixture to pick up. Like I said, it does eat up a lot of DMX addresses, so be aware that you may not have a lot of address space for all your fixtures. But even like you see with these 4 going, I still have enough room to add 4 additional wash fixtures, which are RGB amber fixtures. I can still add 6 more movers to this, as well as a fog machine and a sparkle machine. And I still have a little bit of DMX address space left. But you can still get a decent setup, even with those 4 bars plus your other lights. But hopefully this tutorial was helpful for those users with these bars or that are interested in getting these bars. Just like I said, be aware, you do have to customize your fixture profiles a bit to get these set up the way that you like them. But again, if you have any questions, reach out on the Facebook group, reach out in the Discord channel, or post in the MaestroDMX forum for assistance, and one of us will jump in there and help you. Again, thanks for watching this video.